Okay, never mind. Let's move on because the Premier League returns tonight and the big game sees Newcastle take on Everton. Everton under the new management, of course, of Frank Lampard. Ashley Cole's gone in there as well. Now, new Toffees boss Frank Lampard, he's going to be, he's got a host of new signings. So they are available now for this first league match under Frank. One of them is Dele Alli. Now, Dele Alli came under a bit of criticism, didn't he? First of all, from our own backyard. Glenn Hoddle's got this as well. Basically, Glenn Hoddle, surrounding his recent transfer, has been commenting on the Rolls Royce, but obviously also the clothes that he turned up in. Alan and yourself, Ali, had this to say.
The other thing it didn't annoy me, but I want to see the guy playing his football again, right? And I think it's in the Sun this morning, and Dele turns up, and Frank's, obviously got him up at Goodison. And maybe I'm old-fashioned, right? But he turns up in his Rolls Royce. I'm like, oh no, Dele, don't do that.
Did he?
Aye.
Did he really?
Don't do that. You
know
what I mean?
Man, I know.
I'm just, I want to be just, little signals like that.
I know.
To me, am I wrong, Ali?
Listen, mate. Listen, Al. I don't think you're wrong. You've got to combat it by saying you and I definitely agree with you, but we are of a completely different generation.
Okay, there we go. So that was Ali McCoist and Alan Brazil having a say on Dele Alli turning up to training in a Rolls Royce. Turns out Frank actually listens to the show because in yesterday's press conference, Frank Lampard had this to say in reply.
I heard some of the reaction, and I've got a lot of respect for everyone who's spoken, ex-players, people that I respect and admire, and Ali McCoist, Alan Brazil, these people, Glenn Hoddle, that I would never go against their word. But when you're working closely with players, I'm working with Dele, my personal opinion is that I don't care what car he drives, what clothes he wears, as long as I get a lad that comes to training every day, wants to improve every day, respects the club, respects his teammates, and then produce, and give everything to produce. And I think, the modern day has moved on and it's changed. We all have to be very aware of that. And again, I'm not hitting back at any form of observation because everyone's allowed their own opinion. But I can only deal with what's in front of me. And when I just mentioned there that Dele and Donny are both great lads, I mean it. And maybe Donny wears an overcoat that's longer than what Dele wears, a different kind of jacket. That doesn't bother me.
Okay, so I just want to give you a little bit of context about what Glenn Hoddle said, and then we'll give Ali his right to reply as well. This is what Glenn Hoddle said about how Dele Alli walked out when he was what's the word when you are
introduced to the fans?
There you go, exactly that. Unveiled, that's the word. When he was unveiled at Goodison Park. So he had a little hat on, a little woolly hat, some jeans, some designer jeans, a jacket, just like a navy bomber jacket almost, with an Everton scarf around his neck. And this is what Glenn Hoddle said. He said, I didn't like the way he walked out on the pitch with what he was wearing. I thought he'd just got dragged off the streets, to be honest. So I personally thought that was really harsh. But Ali, in terms of what you guys were talking about, do you stand by your stance about the way he arrived at training, the Rolls Royce?
Yeah, I stand by that. Listen, the first thing you have to say, what Frank said yesterday is 100% correct. He's not interested in, as long as he behaves himself away from the ground, he's not interested in what he drives or what he wears, for example. He's only interested, and I wrote down a couple of things that Frank said. He wants to improve every day in training, and the most important thing is that he produces for himself, the Everton fans, and Frank. That's the most important thing from Frank's point of view, and he's 100% right. The first thing, I'll echo what I said earlier on, Woodsy. First thing you got to say, Glenn, myself, and Alan are from a different generation, right? Getting back to Glenn's comments, I've slightly less of a problem with Glenn's with what he wears, although I would have liked, I know it's a crazy thing, if he's gonna, I'd like to see him in a suit, right? That's just an age thing, that's all it is. It's just a generational thing. If he's gonna be unveiled, as you say, introduced to the Everton fans, I'd like to see him really smart, maybe with an Everton blazer and collar and tie. It's an age thing, and I can see you smiling, and you're well within your rights, and I know that criticism can be levelled at me. However, I just think, turning up for your first day at training in a Rolls Royce, I'm not sure it just sends the right message to the Everton fans that are coughing up money, hard-earned money, every week. I know, and they'll be delighted if they get and he scores 2 goals, 3 goals, and he plays. But do you understand where the older kind of generation are coming from?
I think that's it. I think it's a real generational difference, because from my perspective, I'm not surprised that these footballers have money. I know they have money. I know they spend them on nice things because I see it on their social media all the time. So for me, them turning up in training in a Rolls Royce, for me, it didn't offend me, because I don't think we should be shocked anymore. They're paid astronomical wages.
Yeah, absolutely.
They buy themselves nice things.
It didn't offend me, Woodsy.
What did it do then?
It just disappointed me ever so slightly. I know, it didn't offend me. I just thought to myself, you know, particularly somebody like Dele Alli, who, by the way, has to produce. He's now at the stage where he has to produce. You know, and I think like a lot of people can look at him and say, whether we agree or not, Woodsy, he's had 2 or 3 years or a period of time where he hasn't produced, right? He hasn't produced for Spurs, he hasn't produced for himself, he hasn't produced for the Tottenham fans. He's now been given an opportunity. And I just think it sends out a signal, look, you can still drive about in a big Rolls Royce even if you're not producing.
So that's your one, which I fully accept, because I actually spoke to a few other people of your generation to ask what they thought about it as well, and they were of the same opinion. So we'll different opinions with that one. The Glenn Hoddle one, though, I think was a little bit deeper, because it's almost like on one side you're saying don't be too flash, don't turn up to training in a Rolls Royce, but also don't dress down like on match day, and don't. I think
it's respect from Glenn's point of view.
Yeah, I get that.
It's a respect thing.
But isn't it, if, for example, if the club wanted him to turn up in a club suit, for example, or something like that,
they should have given him one.
Give him one. And it was quite, they both looked a little bit informal. For me, I don't know, for me having to go at his fashion was just a little bit much, because I just think you're judging him on the standards of perhaps what was right for your careers 20 or 30 years ago or something like that. And that sort of standard, I think, is quite subjective, isn't it? To do with how you think, what you think is smart, or what you think the occasion should be. And I understand being unveiled. You know, I've seen unveilings with other clubs, and sometimes they've turned up in a kit and they've done it in a really funny way. Sometimes it's a suit, that sort of thing. I imagine he was probably told it's quite an informal, we're just going to introduce you to the crowd, that sort of thing, which is probably why he felt the need to just, I don't know, dress down or wear what he wanted to. But I don't know. For me, I just think it gets to the point where it becomes quite personal. And with Dele Alli as well, what I really wouldn't want to happen, look, he's been given a chance here by Frank Lampard, right? So Frank sees something in him, like we heard there. Frank's the one that is saying, I see a player in here and I think I can get it out. Judging him by his clothes and suggesting there's any kind of connection, and I don't think that's what you're doing for any minute. But part of, perhaps, you could argue, Dele's problems at the moment, why he's not performing, is being heightened by the criticism he gets off the pitch. The media are on him all the time. You know, there's reports about him and how he likes to play computer games. There's reports now about what he turns up to training with, what he wears. And what I really wouldn't want, and I know it's going to happen, is if he doesn't perform at Everton, people will be straight on him because of all of these other things. But I almost feel like if he doesn't perform at Everton, it won't be a case of, see, I told you so. It should be a case of, isn't that sad? Do you know what I mean? Like,
100%. Listen, if he doesn't, we're talking about wee minor issues here, would you? If he doesn't, I can guarantee you something. If he doesn't perform at Everton, excuse me, it won't be because he turned up in the Rolls Royce, or it won't be because he turned up with a hat on to meet the crowd. That's got nothing to do with it. These are wee side issues that we're talking about. You know, the far bigger issue is like Frank Lampard said yesterday. He wants a player to turn up that's willing to learn, want to work hard and do well for himself and the team. That's the most important.
Yeah, so why do we focus on anything else? You know, why do we get obsessed with what they're driving, what they wear?
What they play? Because the fact of the matter is, it has been the case for a good number of years now, footballers in particular are the pop stars of yesteryear. That's what they are.
Yeah.
Arguably, they've actually gone ahead of pop stars in terms of stardom, in terms of adulation, in terms of focus. That's what they are now. So it goes with the territory. Whether I have a moan about I'm turning up in a Fiat Punto or a whatever, a Ford Cortina, that's irrelevant. But the fact is the matter, we are now going to that nth degree and talking about these football players.
I just think he's not even kicked a ball yet.
Yeah,
he's not kicked a ball yet. He's not been on the pitch. If we want him to do well, and I hope that's what people want, because I hate to think I'm not saying you, Ali, but I hate to think that a lot of the the reports and the comments about him are underlined because people in this country, we like to build people up and we like to tear them down.
We do, yeah.
He's not even kicked a ball yet, so I almost feel like, look, I don't even think it's a case of reserve judgment. I would really like to see him do well at Everton, and if he doesn't do well, it's a sad situation all round. I don't think it should be.
Of course
well.
it is. You're
should
talking
be
about
doing this,
somebody.
should be doing that.
Would you right? We're talking about somebody here that was one of the best players at 2018 World Cup, along with Jesse Lingard. I think the vast majority of us all, and certainly myself, wants to see Dele Alli do well for Everton, score goals and play well. Absolutely. Just getting back to the generational thing, but I'm somebody that turned up for training every day, collar and tie. So that was what we were.
Can I throw something at you though, Ali?
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that some of what you got up to off the pitch that didn't get reported might be worse than turning up to a training
I don't think there's any
ground
doubt about that.
in a Rolls Royce or turning up to your unveiling in a pair of jeans and a woolly hat.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt
So
about that.
is it perception that's important?
However, that isn't the argument.
But isn't it the argument? Because aren't we saying like you can't do that because people are seeing you do that? So is it okay to do things that are deemed worse as long as nobody sees you doing it?
No, because I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what he is doing visually to supporters, right?
But that's my argument though. We don't know what anyone's doing off the pitch, yet we're having a go at them for turning up in casual clothes.
Because times have changed. They have to accept that. The players nowadays have to accept. We're going to talk about something else in about probably for 10-15 minutes, which is absolutely horrendous because there's a lack of respect and they've been caught doing something on social media. Social media wasn't about in my day, right? And did I do things that I would have deeply regretted? 100%. But I'd like to think I wouldn't have done them because I would have known social media would have got me.
But that's what I mean. I know what you're saying, but going out and getting boozed up and all that sort of stuff, which we know happens, everybody does it. So essentially the argument is as long as you don't get caught.
That's always been the argument.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Isn't that where it's wrong? Because like he might not be doing any of that. Yeah, he's got a Rolls Royce, and we're saying, oh, you can't have a bloody Rolls Royce, and you can't turn up in those jeans. And
yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like,
but the amount of managers that said to me, as long as you don't get caught.
But that can't be. Is that the right thing to do? Well, because isn't he being? What about if he's ideal in his preparation for every game? He gets his food right. He gets his sleep right. He does all those things. He does all those things that make him a model footballer.
Yes,
but he's got a Rolls Royce. Therefore, that's wrong.
I didn't say it was wrong. I just thought it was the wrong thing to do. Turn up for your first day Everton in a Rolls Royce because I just think those Everton fans, right, like all football fans, they pay their hard-earned money. You know, and they've got somebody who they're thrilled to see that hasn't really performed for 2 or 3 years, turning up in a Rolls Royce. Whereas, make no mistake about it, everybody goes, wow, you see that Rolls Royce? Where rather he could have come in a little bit inconspicuous and say, right, I'm here to graft. Listen,
in a Fiat Punto or something.
That wouldn't have bothered me. You know what I mean? That's the thing. That's the thing, you know. The fact of the matter is, I did say it's a generational thing. I also said if I was being introduced to supporters at anything for the first time, I'd like to think I'd maybe have a suit on, but I totally understand that and I don't have a problem, and that's definitely a generational thing, you know. You probably find with this argument the argument would side one way or the other with the generation.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. You're bang on there because I'm not offended by it and you are.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods, Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.